Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. So, September 2024, how was it? Well, started out really good. In fact, started out fantastic with Beetlejuice. That was expected to be a big money hit, and being a big money hit, so that gave me hope. That was like, okay, September's gonna be lit. And then September pretty much collapsed after that, with not a whole lot of positives going on. So yeah, so that sucked, but it was better than last year. But granted, that was entirely because of Beetlejuice, but still, it was better than last year. So yeah, let's go over all these movies. I'm gonna compare my own personal predictions to what actually happened, and let's get started. So September 6th, Beetlejuice, the big movie of September. It's basically an out of season summer blockbuster. That's what it felt like. So with this movie, I predicted, okay, well, before it released, I wasn't super sure if it would be a big hit because Beetlejuice, I mean, that's an old movie. That came out in 1988. Okay, long time ago. So to make a sequel to that, like 36 years later, that's always a risk. There's also the fact that, Michael Keaton, you know, reprising his role from like an 80s movie. I mean, they tried it with Batman in The Flash. That went terribly. And I still remember to the day watching that first Flash movie trailer and going through the comments. Damn near every single comment there was about Michael Keaton's Batman, giving you this false idea that everyone's going to want to see him and the movie will do well. And it didn't. Nobody saw the movie. I sure as hell didn't see that movie. So that made me a little worried about Beetlejuice. Although I knew this didn't have the same issues as The Flash. It didn't have a problematic, lead, Ezra Miller. So, there was that to think about. But as the movie got closer to release, hype started to build and build and build to the point where opening weekend, I think I predicted like 90 to 100 mil, something like that, and its final total would be like 250 million. And well, it hit 111 million, which is the second best ever for September. As I'm about to scroll, September, where are you? There you are. Okay. September. The only movie that did better was the first It back in 2017. So this Beetlejuice is just sandwiched in between the It movies. Further proving that the weekend after Labor Day is the best weekend to release a Warner Brothers horror movie because they love doing that. Yeah, 111 million opening, like that's great. Like I believe only two other movies this year have reached triple digits in terms of openings. That's Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out 2. So it's an elite company. Now, obviously, its box office is nowhere near those two movies, but it's still really good. Its legs have been solid enough. It's made 277 million domestically, which is a spectacular number for a September movie, and just spectacular for the year all around. Internationally, it didn't do as great, but that was to be expected. The first Beetlejuice didn't made like no impact overseas, so to see it doing worse than the U.S., that's not surprising. But still, did better than Twisters, so it's got that going for it. Made over 400 million worldwide on a budget of 100 million. Obviously, undisputed success right here. And and I saw the movie opening night and I liked it. It was very weird, but I expected it. It's Tim Burton. He's known for making weird movies, so we had like a weird vibe to it. Liked all the practical effects that were done, and yeah, it was a good time. And yeah, I'm glad it's done well because 2024 like really needed some like surprise hits, some like heavy hitters right? Because this year has been pretty rough. I mean, we've had a lot of strong performers throughout the summer, but you need more than that. Okay, you need more like outside of summer, and this happened to be one of them. So really helped out 2024 a lot. So yeah, and it helped out Warner Brothers a lot because summer was rough for them. They had no big money hits throughout summer. It was terrible. But they got a big money hit out of Beetlejuice. But October this month, they got the polar opposite with Joker 2. But that's a story for another recap video. But yeah, Beetlejuice, undisputed number one hit of the month, the big winner of the month, obviously, no question about that. Now, The Front Room, the movie that had the gall to open the same weekend as Beetlejuice, trying to be like counter programming. I think I predicted an opening week of like 1 million, found told like 2 million. Well, it hit 1.5 million, about around 1.6, which is still terrible for a wide release. It fell off the face of earth. I mean, look at that. It fell 74%. Not sure what's going on with the numbers here. It's really weird, but you know what? Doesn't matter. Say 3 million. So 3 million total. So it did ever so slightly better than I expected, but that's literally saying nothing. Considering expectations were so low. So this is a rare L for A24. It's usually their track record's been quite alright. I mean, they had like their big gamble was Civil War earlier this year, and that worked out pretty darn well. But in this case, no. But hey, no studio ever bats 1,000. Okay, you're gonna have hits, you're gonna have flops. That's just how it is. So, yeah, obviously in the long term, this isn't gonna do anything to A24. It's just a slight blemish on their record. Let's just say that. So yeah, that was September 6th. And as I said, like the month started off really good, and then it crashed. It just fell off after this, as you're about to see real quick. So September 13th. Okay, am I racist? Okay. So for this documentary, I guess yeah, it would be a documentary. I wasn't even sure if this was going to be a wide release. I was thinking it would probably open like 500 theaters or something, and I wouldn't have to talk about it because I never. It felt like it was real under the radar. But then it got like a ton of theaters, got 1,500 theaters. And I'm like, yep, I gotta talk about this. Oh boy. So I wasn't sure what to predict for this thing because documentaries are hard to predict. I mean, is the whole the idea around this movie. You have Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire making this documentary about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. If you didn't know, and I was wondering, okay, is this just gonna appeal to like that right wing group? Is it just gonna preach to the choir, if you will, or is it, or it does it have a chance of expanding a bit beyond that, being more broad and less narrow? Well, I looked at the early numbers. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna predict 4 million, final total of like 10. Well, it hit a little past 4 million, 4.5 million. Its legs have been just meh, real meh, and now it's made 12 million, which I mean for documentary standards in this day and age isn't too bad at all. In fact, it's better than some of the wide releases that came out in September, but I wouldn't call it great at all. It's like it's okay for what it is, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just meh. Bleh. But no, I heard that it was going to be on like the Daily Wire's streaming service. Yes, they have a streaming service, the Daily Wire Plus, which I imagine it'll be seen more through that. Maybe I have no idea how many people are even subscribed to Daily Wire Plus. I can't imagine it's that many. You have like 20, 30, an endless amount of streaming services. People only have so much money to spend. But yeah, I guess for the Daily Wire, I mean, yay, you had a hit. You had a movie not embarrass itself. I mean, congrats. But yeah, I wouldn't call it like a smash success at all because it's just not. But for what it is, it could have been worse. And now, great. Excuse the scrolling. I know that's not good for the eyes. I'm aware of that, but I scroll all the way down. So we're back to September 13th. Okay. What's next? Dan to Dan first encounter. Okay. So opening weekend, I think I predicted like 100K to like 500K and a final total of like less than a million. Well, it hit a million. It hit like 900K, and I was thinking, okay, this is gonna go somewhere, and then it just didn't. I mean, look at these look at these drops. Like, god damn, this was really just a 1 week movie. So yeah, I have nothing really to say. I mean, this was basically just 3 episodes of like an anime that you had to pay for to watch on the big screen. So it's just whatever, I guess. So not much to say about that. Killer's Game. I have things to say about this though. Ugh. So before I did my prediction video on this thing, I was thinking I saw the trailer for this movie. I think it was in front of either Trap or Alien Romulus. One of the two. I forget. And I was like, okay, this has a little bit of potential. I can see this being like a mid-level hit, maybe. Maybe make like 10 or million opening weekend, maybe like 20, 30 million total, something like that. That's what I thought. Oh boy, that's not what happened at all. So I saw its early numbers and I'm like, oh my god, okay, this is going terribly. So I predicted an opening weekend of like 3 million, final total of like 7, 8 million, something like that. It 2.7 million if you round it, which is just devastating for a wide release. And its legs are just non-existent. Literally disappeared before September. By the time September was over, ended up making 5.4 million. If that was like opening weekend, that would be pretty bad. But that's it's total. It's total. Like shit. And obviously this is from Lionsgate. Gotta talk about them. And in September, man, it's fitting that that company's name is Lionsgate. It's real fitting that that company starts with the letter L, because that letter represents their whole company right now. It is awful. I mean, it's August. Y'all know about Borderlands and The Crow. September was no better. Every single movie they released in September was a bomb. And they all released rapid fire, which was just a terrible decision. I don't know why they decided to do that. Because none of these movies are going to have, like, the time, like, they're not going to have, like, when ideally, you spread your movies out. That way, each have a time to breathe. You can spend your money on each of them. That way, they all have proper ad campaigns. When you release them rapid fire, none of them are going to have the support necessary to be hits. And that's what happened. They all just kind of released, and then they all disappeared just as fast. So yeah, apparently all these movies from like the previous administration at Lionsgate, so I guess they just want to shove these movies out there and just move on. Just never think about them again. Which, I mean, mission accomplished, I guess, but this makes you look terrible. It doesn't make you look good at all. But that's what they did. And this was just like the first of the three flops that came, 3 Lionsgate flops that came, from, in September. So, yeah, Killer's Game, big old flop. I'm not super surprised. Didn't really, the vibe of the movie, I thought maybe it could be a mid-level hit. There was other part of me that was like, this feels like a movie you would just, like, you're on Netflix, you scroll past it, and then you look at it for a moment, and then you just move on to something else. Like, that's the type of movie this is. So, yeah, I'm not super surprised this flopped. I am surprised it flopped as hard as it did, though. I was expecting to hit double digits, not 5 million. Like, So that's embarrassing. Now for the one, real, like, serious positive of September 13th, Speak No Evil. Okay. So, saw the trailer for this. I was thinking it had a shot. It looked interesting enough. We have James McAvoy, who's one of my faves. And, I was thinking, okay, September doesn't really have a whole lot going on besides Beetlejuice. And plus, this is the only movie that released that weekend that had, like, serious commercial potential. So I was thinking, okay, this could do all right. So I predicted an opening weekend of like 13 million, a final total between like 30 and 40 million. Well, hit 11.4 if you round it. Not quite as high as I predicted, but still okay for a movie that cost like 15 million. So legs have been pretty good actually. Really good. It's been showing some legs. It's now made 35 million domestically, 73 million worldwide on a budget of 15 million. Rock solid. Real rock solid. And you know what's sad? What's really sad about this though? This is Blumhouse's biggest hit of the year. I'm not joking when I say that. This year has been awful for them. About as bad as Lionsgate's. The only difference is they make cheap movies. Lionsgate released Borderlands and Megalopolis, movies that cost like over $100 million. So Blumhouse is better than Lionsgate at that. But yeah, this year has been just it's just not been working for them. I guess people are kind of like see through their movies and they realize most of their movies are just not worth watching because they're just bad. Like what they released this year, like Night Swim, Imaginary, Afraid. Nobody saw Afraid. Absolutely no one. But for this, it's a nice little hit. It's a nice little W for them. And I did see this movie, and you know what? It was good. I liked it. The movie, like, with James McAvoy's character, he gives you like the most like unsettling vibes, like the weird vibes, but that's intentional. And I thought it was solid. Although the director of the original movie, because see, this is a remake of like a Danish movie that came out like 2 years ago. Well, the director of the original, like he didn't like how Speak No Evil's, the remake, changed the ending, because the ending did change. And out of curiosity, I read the summary of the original movie to see like what's changed. Most of it's the same. Some key elements were changed, although some of which I understand why. Like, spoiler, I guess. It's not a huge plot point, but in the remake, there's like the daughter of like the main couple, and she ends up like sleeping on the bed of like James McAvoy and like his wife, like their characters, and the parents are just like, "Oh my god, what are you doing? What is this?" Well, in the original, it's a little worse. It's a quite a bit worse actually, because the original, like, the main villain, like, James McAvoy is like the guy who basically played James McAvoy's character, like that character. He's naked in bed, and the daughter is in that bed sleeping next to him, and I'm just like, yeah, that's gotta go. That we're changing that. Oh, if they kept that in the American version, people would have a fit. People would be pissed off, which I can't blame them for that. But yeah, that's a change that was probably for the best. And like the whole ending was very different. Like the original ending was like real grim, like hella grim, but in the remake, it's a little more happy ending ish, but not really. But it's a little more satisfying. But the original director, he did not like the ending of this movie. So there's that. But I still like the movie. So yeah, and I'm glad it's done well. It deserved to be a hit. So that was September 13th. Now we move on to September 20th, where some real interesting things happen. Not exactly for the best, but things were definitely happening. Okay, first, Never Let Go, a movie that I'm pretty sure you all forgot even came out at this point, even though it's been like a few weeks. So there's another Lionsgate movie, their second of the month. So as I already told you, Lionsgate was having a shit year. And with this, I was thinking maybe it has a shot of being a mid-level hit. I mean, you got Halle Berry, who has had successful movies, all on her own, where she's like the main star. I mean, movies like Gothica, The Call, even Kidnap, a movie that nobody wanted, like some no-name distributor got, and even then, that movie made like 30 million domestically. So I was thinking, this has a shot at being a hit, maybe. No. So I predicted an opening weekend of like, um, I think it was like 3-4 mil, and it ended up making like 4.4 mil, which is just not good. And then its legs were just, well, it had a decent enough second weekend, and then it lost all its theaters and all its momentum. So now it's only made like 10.2 million, 21 million on a budget of 20 million. Oof, not good. But this is the least, I guess technically it's the most successful in the backwards way. It is the most successful of the three Lionsgate movies that came out in September. The fact that this is the most successful of the bunch should tell you a lot right there. And this movie, it had like bad reviews, bad word of mouth. I said it looked way too much like A Quiet Place. It looked like A Quiet Place knockoff. That's what it felt like. And yeah, now it's completely forgotten and unloved. So yeah, nothing else to say about Never Let Go. The Substance, oh my god. Oh, okay. So initially I had like no plans to see this thing. Okay, I didn't even really know much about it. Then I read reviews. I looked at like the synopsis here and like the posters, and I decided to be bold. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch this thing, and I'm not gonna watch any trailers, any clips, any pictures, nothing. I'm going into this blind as a bat on purpose just to see what happens. Because I heard the movie like was nasty, I heard it was crazy, and so I wanted to experience it all firsthand. And that's what I did. I on Saturday that weekend I went to see this thing. No one, damn near nothing. And when I saw the movie, like, oh my god, it was easily the craziest movie I've ever seen in a theater, bar none. One of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, this movie took some turns and just like it just kept escalating more and more and more. I couldn't believe my eyes to what I was witnessing. And at the end, I was just like literally when the credits roll, I sat in my seat for a good like 20, 30, some like a good amount of time trying to process what I just watched. And I was just kept thinking about this movie constantly for like the next like day or so. It was just in my like the forefront of my mind. And it's rare for a movie to do that to me, because a lot of movies I kind of just watch, think about it for a few hours, and I move on to the next thing. This stayed in my head for a good amount of time. So yeah, I mean, the movie was honestly, if I had to get a rating, I know ratings aren't really that important, but out of 10, I give it a 10. Honestly, like it's rare for a movie to make me feel. I want a movie that make me feel things. That's the least a movie can do. Make me feel something. And this movie made me feel a lot of things. And for that, I think it's a 10 out of 10. I think it's low-key a masterpiece. My favorite movie of the year, honestly. But that's enough of me gushing about this thing and telling you about my experience watching it. Now time to talk about its box office. So I didn't think much about its box office. I thought, oh, this movie's not going to do well. No one's going to care about it. But then I predicted an opening weekend of like 3 million and a final total of like 6-7, because even with like the high reviews, I was thinking this movie would be like, a little, be a pill that's like a little too hard to swallow for like mainstream audiences, because after seeing the movie, I could definitely see people being turned off by this thing because of its content. But it hit 3 million, 3.2 million. There's something interesting has been going on recently with this thing. You think it would have faded away, but no. It's had really good legs, even with less theaters. Its per theater average, like this past weekend, is the highest it's ever been. That's not normal. So that tells me there is actually apparently there is demand for this thing, a little bit of demand because like last weekend, I read about the substance, its performance, and apparently in some like theaters it was like selling out, and I was like, oh okay. So that explains why its per theater average isn't like near zero. So now it's hit 11 point almost 12 million, which is a lot better than I expected. And it's hit like 26 million. I think its budget was like 17 mil, something like that. So if it can continue this momentum, then it could like double its budget. And I imagine like once it hits like a streaming service, so I don't know what streaming service, once it hits PVOD, it'll definitely make its money back. And honestly, I see this being a cult classic. I see this gaining a big following, like in the next year or so, because it's such a strange movie that you never see ever. Like it's so beyond the norm of what to expect, and that's why I really love it. That's why I highly recommend it. Although if you have a weak stomach, don't watch this movie ever. You will probably you not probably you will vomit. I will say, like this movie gets fucked up. It gets so just in terms of how nasty it can get. I mean, this is a poster, just stitched back. That is the peak of the iceberg right there in terms of content. But yeah, I I'm glad people are discovering this movie. Deserves success. Love it. My favorite movie of the year. I feel like Demi Moore, if she don't get an Oscar for this movie, I'm gonna be a little pissed because like she went like above and beyond for this thing. And yeah, Substance, great movie. I'm glad people are discovering it now. Another movie that people should discover but aren't really is Transformers 1, and this really breaks my heart. So Transformers 1. So this was technically not it's the second theatrical animated Transformers movie if you count the Transformers movie from like the 80s. But this was released after like a string of live action movies. You know the ones: Transformers 1, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction, Last Night, Bumblebee, and then Rise of the Beast last year. But this was animated. So no live action, no humans. Thank God. So it's just Transformers. And this is a prequel, basically telling you like Optimus Prime and Megatron's like origin story, more or less. And yeah, I wasn't sure how to feel about this thing. The trailers really didn't impress me. They kind of made it feel real kiddie, and I was just like, I don't think so. I mean, it didn't look terrible, but it didn't look like something like I wanted to see. Then I read reviews for it. People say, "Oh, this movie's so good. This movie's great. It's way better than the trailers make it out to be. Has a lot more depth. It's like way more dramatic." And I was like, okay, I should definitely watch it then. But I ended up watching this movie like 2 weeks after it released. Like the weekend it came out, I couldn't see it because I decided to watch The Substance instead. But I did end up seeing this thing, and I'll tell you, it was good, really good. Out of all the Transformers movies we've gotten ever since like the first Bayformer movie, this is the best one, without a doubt, because it doesn't have any of that goddamn cringe humor that the Michael Bay movies had, where it's not like sexually charged as those movies. Like it's just told a good story, had good characters, had great animation, really good action. And yeah, I really like it. But unfortunately, the movie ended up being a flop because I predicted an opening of like 30 million, final total of like 80 to 90 million, because that was me looking at the reviews thinking, oh, this movie's going to really overperform. Ended up opening like 24.6 million. And I was like, oh, What happened? What went wrong? Did the Bayformer movies hurt the chances for this like, too much? Like, what's going on? And then its legs, its second weekend was just brutal. Fell 63%, which, I mean, reviews definitely don't explain it. But you know what does explain that? The fact that this opened literally a week before Wild Robot. So you literally had two animated robot movies going head to head, back to back. Terrible decision. I've said this multiple times. It's never good to have two similar movies or two movies of the same genre opening in close proximity to each other, especially not week to like back to back like this, because they're gonna end up either eating into each other's box office, screwing each other over, or one of them is gonna really screw the other one over. And what happened with like Wild Robot and Transformers One? Transformers One really got screwed over. So yeah, it so far made 53 million, 112 million on budget, like 75 mil. So that's really not good. I don't see this being a hit, which sucks because it deserved better. We can add this to the pile of good movies that deserved better at the box office. But I do see this getting a following. I do see this becoming a bit of a cult classic. Especially when it hits PVOD and Paramount Plus. Once it hits that, way more people will see this movie. I know that for a fact. Because it's really good. It didn't deserve this, man. It really didn't. But you know that's movies, man. Like movies can the box office can be real rough. Okay, it can the box office can be damn straight up heartless at times. Just because you want a movie to succeed doesn't mean it will succeed, or just because you want a movie to fail doesn't mean it will fail. Okay, so to see this movie perform this I guess perform this bad, it sucks. But hey, it's not the worst performing flop of September, so there's that. Okay. So yeah, September 20th wasn't a great weekend, but you got two really solid flicks out of it in terms of The Substance and Transformers 1. Now we move on to September 27th. Okay, way too many movies open this weekend. Why were there so many? I don't know. This never works out. Because when this happens, usually only like one movie, one or two max, live and the others just die. That's just how it is. And that's exactly what happened here. So, well, first I'll talk about Devaria Part 1. Might as well mention this for a quick moment since I didn't make a prediction video for it. This had like a really good Friday and then it died afterwards. It only made like 5.6 million. But, for a weekend, I say it did pretty good considering obviously lack of promotion and all that. I guess in terms of its box office, it's terrible. But Bollywood, Tollywood-esque movies, they don't do that great here, obviously because it's a very niche market. But I guess for its limited release here, I mean it could have been worse. So now to move on to all the movies I actually made prediction videos for. First up, Azrael. I forgot to mention this. When I hear this name, I thought of the Batman character, the dude who was in it was Arkham Knight, where you had to do some do some missions for him. That's immediately what my mind came to when I heard the name Azrael. But yeah, this thing it opened. Well, I predicted an opening weekend of I don't even know, 500K to a million, the final total of a million. Well, it didn't even hit that. It hit 282K, 433K. It lasted for 1 week and just disappeared, which is pretty much the norm for movies that, are this small. I've said this plenty of times with movies that have come out this year. A lot of the really small movies, they're just I guess to have it be theatrical, I guess that I guess it boosts its rep a little bit. It boosts its image, but not really. Does it if a movie comes out and no one saw it, literally nobody, did it even come out? I mean, I know it did, but it feels like it didn't. I don't think anyone even knew this movie existed. So, yeah, seeing these low numbers doesn't surprise me in the least. Oh, what's next? Lee. Okay, so I predicted an opening weekend of God, I don't remember. I made so many videos that night. I don't remember what I said. I think it was like 1 million. I found sold like 2, 3 million, something like that. I don't remember. Oh, but like 713K made out 1.7 million. It's pretty much out of theaters right now. Not super shocked about this. This very much felt like Oscar bait. And it wasn't even Oscar bait that had like a series, like had like serious marketing push, backing it up. So yeah, these results don't surprise me. What's it? Megalopolis? Oh boy, Megalopolis, aka Megaflopolis. Where to start with this thing? Ooh, ooh, ooh. So this was Lionsgate third L of September. Definitely the most embarrassing of the bunch. Although, Lionsgate, they just distributed this. Like this 120 million budget that you see, that's not from them. That was from Francis Ford Coppola himself via Game of like his winery. So Lionsgate's more or less off the hook with this, but still, it's not a good thing to put on your resume. But yeah, Megalopolis, I've heard so much about this thing for months, and it wasn't good. The things people were saying were not good, not the types of stuff you want to hear. Like, I believe that it debuted like at Cannes, I think in May, to a very muted response from critics. Like that is not what you want when you like premiere a movie at Cannes. Ideally, you want like a really high score. You want your movie to be like have like a 15-minute standing ovation or something like that. Like that's what you want. I mean, for The Substance, apparently I got a long ass standing ovation at Cannes. Was it at Cannes? Yeah. Yeah, I think it was at Cannes where it actually won best screenplay over there. I think it was Cannes. It was one of the big film festivals that released. But yeah, Megalopolis. I'm gonna check to make sure I'm getting my facts right. So give me a quick moment. Megalopolis. Where is it? Yeah, it was at Cannes with Megalopolis. What about The Substance? Was that also Cannes? Yeah, it was Cannes. Okay, both were at Cannes. Okay. And while The Substance won Best Screenplay, this movie didn't win jack shit. So that was the first problem. And then things got weird. Really weird. There's a lot of stories about this thing. About Francis Ford Coppola, like allegedly was bad behavior, like doing some stuff with like some extras to the point where he sued the a Variety because they ran an article about that. He sued them for like $15 million. So that happened. And then a trailer for this movie, an infamous trailer, came out where it showed like these I'm using air quotes here, these critic quotes about like Apocalypse Now and The Godfather, saying all these movies were trash, but they became like legendary years after the fact. Well, those quotes were fake. They were apparently made by AI, and Lionsgate literally took the trailer down like the same day, and they actually publicly fired the guy who was like in charge of that stuff. So yeah, that happened. And then like the trailer, I saw the trailer for this in front of The Substance, and I literally can't tell you what the movie was about because the trailer showed you nothing. It showed you like pretty things, didn't tell you anything about characters, plot, gave me no reason to care. It didn't even show me anything that cool, really. At least The Substance, when I saw that movie's trailer after seeing the movie, at least you knew what it was about. You kind of knew what was going on, even though the movie definitely hid a lot of stuff. But like Megalopolis, I couldn't tell you a damn thing, judging by the trailer. So yeah, this movie, Had a lot of controversy surrounding it. A lot of people were convinced this movie was gonna fail, like out of the gate. Everyone was convinced it was gonna happen, and lo and behold, that's what happened. Because I predicted I predicted an open weekend of like 3 to 5 million, and a final total I think it was like less than 10, and it hit 4 million. It was maybe 4 5 million. It hit 4 million, but word of mouth was awful. It had a D plus, same grade Borderlands got. So the fact that it's on par Borderlands, like moviegoers thought it was on par Borderlands quality wise, that's just death right there. And predictably, this had a really bad effect on its second weekend, falling 73%, which is catastrophic. Then fell another 78%, and now it's just gone. It's just a memory. And it's now made like not even 10 million worldwide on a budget of like 120 million, which was out of Francis Ford Coppola, out of his money. And I forgot to mention in my original prediction video, another really goofy thing that happened was like on Letterboxd, Francis Ford Coppola made a review of his own movie and gave it 5 stars. And I was like, bruh, come on. What is that? This is literally the Obama meme where he gives himself a medal. That is literally what that was. So, yeah, just this whole movie is just a bunch of weirdness going on. And from what I've heard, people who have seen the movie, I heard it has some really weird moments in it. There's some really weird characters. One of the characters, I shit you not, her name is Wow Platinum. That's like Audrey Plaza's character, Wow Platinum. That's a real name for a character. Wow Platinum. I mean, I've heard of like some really goofy character names before. I think back at the Snowman, which I know none of you remember. I didn't even see the movie. I just watched a review of it, where the main character of that movie, his name is Harry Hole. I'm like, who is coming up with these names, man? Like, they're just, especially with Wow Platinum. That like, did Francis Ford Coppola like use like a word name generator? Got 2 random names and it was like perfect. That's our character's name, Wow Platinum. Just, is it even on here? Yeah, there it is, Wow Platinum. Like, what type of name is that? Seriously. And then Shia LaBeouf's character, from what I've read, because I wasn't about to see this in a theater. God, no, I didn't. I would never do that. But like, apparently, he had like some weird lines. One of the lines was like, revenge is served best in a dress, and I'm like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? I don't know, bro. The movie's just real fucking weird. But yeah, its failure shouldn't surprise anyone. This is a movie that was made for Francis Ford Coppola and Francis Ford Coppola alone. It's him and nobody else. So it's literally just a vanity project. And people go, "Oh, what if this became like beloved in like 20 years?" No, I doubt it. I don't think this is it might become a so bad it's good movie, but it won't be a good movie ever. So, yeah. That's like the one saving grace this movie has. It'll be so bad it's good. It'll have that reputation. But, yeah, absolute disaster. A very predictable disaster, because like, who on earth thought this was going to make any money? Come on now. So, yeah, what else we got? My Old Ass. Let's talk about this real quick because there's not a whole lot to talk about. I predicted an opening weekend of like, I think it was 1 to 2 million. The final total like 5-10. I don't remember. I don't really care. It opened like 2 million, and its legs have been just dismal, and it's only gonna make like 5 million total. I'm not super shocked. Nobody really cared about this thing. It got like no real buzz, no strong buzz. It just kind of released, and that was it. So Yeah, we're moving on to. Oh god, I gotta talk about this again. Vindicating Trump. With this really weird Instagram filtered image of Trump right here. It's very uncanny. I don't like it. But yeah, this movie was basically just like a raw movie for Trump. Very much pro Trump in nature. And I didn't know what to predict for it. I was thinking maybe like $1 million. Final total like 2, 3 million, something like that. Well, it hit like 774K. So that's like way worse than like say, Am I Racist? And his legs were just nothing there. I mean, you can see it, just nothing going on. So it didn't even make like 1.5 million. I mean, obviously this was very much preaching towards the choir, towards like the Trump fan base, and you think they would care, but they don't. They didn't. I don't even think they knew this was this released, so they just didn't show up. So obviously, you know, obviously it's not going to have any effect on what's going on, what's going to happen like next month at the election or anything, because why would it? But yeah, this is just like it just kind of released, and it was just like just an L, I guess, an L for the Trump brand, I guess. I mean, his name is on it, so, and he was a part of it, so yeah. And wouldn't be, and next month I hope you're ready for me to talk about Trump again, because I got to talk about The Apprentice and how that did. But that's not till my October recap next month. And now we move on to the only movie that came out September 27th that actually had a pulse at the box office. That movie being The Wild Robot. Now, I was thinking, I thought it had a shot at success, but I wasn't super sure. Because, even though this is based off like a book, it wasn't like a huge book or anything like that. At least from what I know, it wasn't like, a massive, a book that everybody's read or something like that. And plus, DreamWorks has had a really wonky track record, throughout their history. Sometimes they can have a hit, sometimes they can have a flop. You never really know. And like, so like in 2022, they had like Bad Guys and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I was thinking, okay, they're really cooking. DreamWorks got some momentum on their side, and then they made Ruby Gillman, which was their biggest flop ever. So, yeah. So yeah, DreamWorks, their track record's real shaky box office wise, but with reviews for this thing were like damn near spectacular. Not even near, like they were spectacular. And I was thinking, okay, these reviews have to have an impact on the box office. They got to help this movie out. I mean, they didn't help out Transformers 1, but I thought this had a better shot, maybe. And I ended up predicting. Originally, I thought it would hit the 20s. When I saw early numbers, it's going to hit the 30s. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I predicted an opening weekend of like 35 million. And a final total of like 120 to 150 million, because I figured this movie would have good legs. Well, it hit 35.8 million, which is actually on the high end for September. Number 13. Well, actually, you got to exclude some of these because they're like second weekend. So if you exclude it, Beetlejuice, and it Chapter 2, I believe it's 10th, right? Yeah, it would be 10th. Right, yeah? Let me look at this just real quick. It'll be it, Beetlejuice, it Chapter 2, Shang-Chi, The Nun, Hotel Transylvania 2, Hotel Transylvania 1, Insidious Chapter 2, Kingdom of Golden Circle. Yeah, it would be number 10, really. So number 10 for all of September. That's pretty great. And throughout its first 2 weeks, its second weekend, it fell way harder than I expected. Granted, it was only 47%, but I thought it would do a little better, just a little bit. Thought it would have a drop in like in the 30s or something. But its third weekend, it went really well. It fell 26%, Had a great holiday Monday, making like 3.5 million that day. And now it's made 87 million domestically. It will absolutely shoot past 100 million. It'll be one of the few movies this year to reach that. I thought Transformers 1 had a shot. It didn't. So, but hey, we got 200 million September movies, which is better than last year, where we had zero. So, yeah, and I did see this movie. I saw it when it came out. Thought it was really, really good. Loved the animation. Loved the characters. I really liked it. Had a real positive, vibe to it. And, it was a family movie that didn't like treat kids like they were stupid, which I greatly appreciate. Like it wasn't like a cheap. It didn't feel like cheap. Like say like Despicable Me, like 4 or something like that, where it was basically like 4 kids. Like anyone can watch this thing. Same goes for Transformers 1. Anyone can watch both those movies. They're not like kids movies. They're family movies that anyone can watch. And that's what I really like about this and Transformers 1. They're high quality family movies that, well, Transformers 1 deserved better, but I'm glad at least one of these movies was able to be a success. I'm glad neither of them. It could have been worse. Both of these movies could have flopped, but I'm glad at least one got to be a hit. And yeah, so that was September. Started out really good, then it got real bad, and then it ended on a bit of a high note with Wild Robot. So we're now in October. And October, oof, yeet. I mean, you got Joker 2, which is the biggest bomb of the whole year, in my opinion. And it's just an absolute disaster. It pretty much crippled October single-handedly. And then Wiper, nobody watched that. Terrifier 3 has done really great. Can't say the same about anything else that came out last weekend. Everything else was pretty much a bust. Smile 2 should realistically be a hit. Same goes for Venom: The Last Dance. But man, October, like whatever momentum September had, October killed it. So it's not good. It's no good at all. September went from cooking, and then October itself got cooked. So yeah, it's just like March to April of earlier this year. Where March, fantastic, and then April flatlined. Same things going on here. So yeah, but that'll be for next month when I make my October recap. I'll go over the corpse that was Joker 2. So yeah, so that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous recap videos I made on the channel. Want to watch any of my previous recap videos I made this year, the past few years. My October recap, that'll be in the beginning of November, roughly, that first, second week of November. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of my recap videos, go right ahead. There's also box office predictions, where I predict box office for movies. Every movie I pretty much covered here, except like Devar Part 1, I have made a prediction video for. So if you want to watch any of those videos, any other videos I made this year, the past few years, you can go right ahead. There's also the canceled series, where I went over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't, for 250 episodes. Want to binge watch that? Go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.